What you're about to hear really happened. It's a strange case that raised a lot of questions about truth, faith, and how stories get told. This is the tale of a boy, a terrible accident, and a claim that changed lives. Listen carefully and decide for yourself what you believe. On a cold November morning in 2004 in a small town called Rushsylvania, Ohio, Kevin Malarkey was driving a red car along a narrow country road. He had his 6-year-old son Alex with him. They were coming home from church, talking and laughing like any father and son would on a simple Sunday. Suddenly, another car sped into an intersection without stopping at a stop sign. The crash was sudden and violent. The red car flipped, and Kevin lost consciousness. Alex was left with severe injuries. Paramedics arrived quickly. They saw that Alex's neck was broken and that he could barely breathe. With no time to lose, they quickly loaded him into a helicopter. He was taken to a hospital in Columbus, where doctors worked hard to save him. Despite the efforts, Alex slipped into a coma. Days passed, then weeks, and finally, 2 long months went by. After 2 months in a coma, Alex slowly woke up. Though he was now confined to a wheelchair and could not move from his neck down, he found his voice again. During his recovery, he began to speak about something he experienced that shocked everyone around him. Alex said that during the crash, when he was unconscious, his spirit left his body. He told his family that he flew above the accident scene, that he saw a bright light and felt a deep warmth, and that he even met figures he identified as angels and Jesus. He said that Jesus spoke to him and sent him back to live. His words were hard to understand at first, and many who heard them could hardly believe what they were hearing. Nurses in the ICU talked about it among themselves, and soon the news spread beyond the hospital walls. By 2010, a well-known Christian publisher called Tyndale House had taken notice of Alex's story. They decided to publish a book titled The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven. Both Kevin and Alex were listed as authors. The book covered featured images of clouds and gentle rays of light, with a design that made it seem soft and heavenly. Inside the book, Alex's account was detailed. He described what he saw during his time away from his body. His description went beyond an ordinary accident. He claimed to have seen both the bright presence of angels and the dark presence of evil. He mentioned a face he believed was Jesus and talked about a purpose he was given upon his return. The book quickly became popular. Churches placed large orders, pastors mentioned it in sermons, and television shows requested interviews. The story was shared in many communities, and the idea of a child experiencing such a vivid journey spread far and wide. People trusted the account because Alex was so young and so clearly affected by the events. Not everyone accepted the story without question. Alex's mother, Beth Malarkey, began to have serious concerns. Beth had been with Alex every day since the accident. She had seen him through multiple surgeries, long hours of physical therapy, and countless moments of pain and hope. After reading the book, Beth felt uneasy. She said that what was written did not match what Alex had ever told her in his own words. In many parts, she believed the story was more than what had really happened. She thought that large parts of the account might have been changed or even made up by others. Beth posted her doubts on Christian blogs and wrote comments on articles discussing the book. She mentioned that Alex, being only a child at the time of the story's publication, might not have been able to fully understand or agree to everything that was printed. Despite her efforts to contact the publisher and express her concerns, Tyndale House did not reply. The book continued to sell well, and the idea was accepted by many without further examination. By January 2015, Alex was a teenager. Even though he was still in a wheelchair and struggling with his disability, he had grown older and started to think clearly about his past statements. In an online post, Alex changed everything. He wrote a short statement that said, "I did not die. I did not go to heaven. I said I went to heaven because I thought it would get me attention. When I made the claims I did, I had never read the Bible. People have profited from lies and continue to. They should read the Bible, which is enough." This confession came as a surprise to many. Major news outlets picked it up within a day. People began to question not only Alex's claims, but the entire genre of books that spoke of personal visits to heaven. The success of The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven was now in doubt as the truth started to come forward. Tyndale House quickly pulled the book from many shelves. Retailers like Lifeway Christian stores announced that they would no longer carry titles making personal claims about visits to heaven. The entire discussion turned into a debate about whether such stories could be trusted and who was really telling the truth. The fallout was not just public. It affected Alex and his family in many real ways. Although the book had sold more than 1 million copies, the profits had not helped Alex at all. His father, Kevin Malarkey, had controlled the rights and the royalties, leaving Alex with nothing. In 2018, Alex took legal action. He filed a lawsuit against Tyndale House, his own father, and other parties involved in making the book. The lawsuit accused them of defamation, fraud, and exploiting a disabled minor. It claimed that important parts of the book had been invented or exaggerated, and that Alex had not given proper consent to share such a personal story. The case became a tangled legal matter, with many voices arguing about ethics and fairness. But for Alex, the personal cost was clear. His reputation and his trust in those around him had been damaged severely. The controversy led him to long-term struggles for him and his mother. They faced financial hardships despite the book's earlier success. They were forced to rely on small fundraisers to cover day-to-day expenses, and even to buy a basic working vehicle for transportation. Meanwhile, Alex's relationship with his family suffered. His parents eventually divorced, and the impact of the controversy left deep marks on his life. Although he continued to believe in the Bible and held on to his faith, he was no longer willing to support the sensational claims that had made him famous. Now in his 20s, Alex lives with the lasting effects of that terrible day and the years that followed. He still depends on others for care and moves around in a wheelchair. But his message has changed. He no longer uses phrases meant to excite or attract attention. Instead, he focuses on what he has learned from reading the Bible. Alex now speaks calmly about the events of his past. He emphasizes that truth is more important than making sensational claims. His new focus has shifted towards letting the Bible speak for itself, rather than relying on dramatic personal stories that might have been influenced by others' expectations. His change in tone and purpose has made many people question all the books and testimonies that claim to tell of visits to heaven. Some readers wonder how many other stories might have been shaped by commercial interests rather than genuine personal experience. When you walk into a Christian bookstore today, you might still see books with shiny covers that promise stories of tunnels of light or visits to heaven. But every one of these stories brings up the question, whose story is this really? Is it the voice of the person who truly experienced something? Or is it the voice of publishers and others who took advantage of a situation? In Alex Malarkey's case, we learned that his story was used to make a point, then altered by others who had their own ideas about what people wanted to hear. For years, the public heard only a version that suited their desire for proof of the supernatural. In the end, the real voice, the voice of a boy who was hurting and confused, was drowned out by what others wanted to portray. Alex now lives with the consequences of that decision. His experience has become a warning about the cost of fame built on uncertain foundations. His journey from a hospital bed to headlines, then to a courtroom, shows how complicated the mix of faith, truth, and exploitation can be. Think about the stories you hear and read. Ask yourself, whose voice is really behind them? When something sounds too dramatic to be true, not every claim is as it appears. I invite you to reflect on what you believe is real and what might be shaped by the need for attention and profit. Share your thoughts in the comments. Did Alex's story change the way you think about miraculous accounts? I'd like to hear your ideas. Remember, sometimes the most important lesson is not the spectacle, but in the quiet truth that lies beneath. If you found this story thought-provoking, please like, subscribe, and share your comments below.